Hey guys, what's up? It is week 415. Let's hop right into the reviews. The first one up is from the Mabuse Lives box set, the final film from this set, The Death Ray of Dr. Mabuse, 1964. Yeah, this Mabuse journey has been pretty interesting, pretty entertaining. So the first one, like I said, we're already at the sixth one of the set. So the last one in the set here, Dr. Mabuse and the Death Ray. So as the commentary by David Callett kind of goes through, he's like, by this point, Bond was huge. And they had lifted from the Mabuse movies and stuff like that for the Bond movies, but now at this point it's a weird kind of cannibalizing thing, right? The rip-off it's ripping off a movie that was kind of inspired by it, so it's very much more Bond. You know, Mabuse is not like an evil genius mastermind. He's kind of in the background. He's that, but he's more of a Bond villain kind of elements what he wants to do. This takes place in Malta. You guys know a bunch of movies take place in Malta. This is actually not filmed on Malta. It's actually filmed in Germany and Italy, from my understanding from the commentaries. So we have a returning character, sort of. If you listen to the commentary, you'll understand. And it's at least the returning actor kind of playing this agent, and he has to go to Malta to figure out where this death ray machine is and who's trying to buy it and stuff like that. Talk to the scientist, because a scientist has developed and created a death ray, and somebody wants to buy it. And knowing a death ray, everybody's in trying to get it. Everybody, a bunch of different people here. He has to take this kind of beautiful woman that he knows as kind of a front there, although everybody knows he's kind of a spy, kind of an agent almost immediately. Runs into all sorts of bizarre, kind of crazy, weird characters. And eventually we have a pretty wild underwater kind of, action set piece with harpoons and all those kind of things like that, which is really cool. We have a bunch of, I wouldn't call them femme fatales, but female interest all involved here. We have, the classic Mabuse changing identity, taking people's faces and things like that. It's overall pretty decent. It's not nearly as good as the top tier ones in this set, I don't think. I think it's perfectly serviceable. Again, the commentary is exceptional. And he goes over this time around, basically, David Callett goes over the Bond history and how kind of this was inspired by the Bond movie and how Thunderbolt played kind of a big interest in this, although this was made before. It's complicated, it's interesting, and it takes some real deep thought and research to kind of know this information. Good stuff. And as besides that, we also have an introduction by Tim Lucas. They both, Lucas and Callett, both do talk about, let me get this second disc out of here, they talk about the Italian version on here, which changes a lot, including the score and a bunch of other things, and it's a little longer, a little bit more coherent and things like that. Tim Lucas much definitely prefers the Italian version, which is on this disc here. But besides that, we just have the commentary by David Callett and the introductions by Tim Lucas. Overall, the set's really entertaining. I really enjoyed it. What are my favorite ones? I really thought The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse was a really good one. I also thought Scotland Yard versus Dr. Mabuse was a blast. And that's the one with I'm getting so confused with the mind control. And I thought Return of Mabuse was good. So I think all of them are good. Some of them are great, but this is the Mabuse Lives, Dr. Mabuse at CCC 1960-1964 from Eureka Films. Check it out. Comes with a nice little booklet, 4-disc in here for 6 movies. Not bad, with a cool booklet and everything like that. You'll get a closer look in the other view. But yeah, check it out. Okay, the next one here is from 88 Films, part of the Shaw Brothers kind of line here, and this is Lady with the Sword. Or is it With the Sword? With the Sword, there we go. Not the sword, it's just one of the swords. So this one is 1971, and it's kind of rare because it's directed by a female director from the Shaw Brothers line, which is not common, especially in the 70s and stuff like that. So this one does have a different little bit of flair, different little taste here. Of course, it's a period piece, and we have this traveling woman traveling with her son, and her husband was just murdered by a bandit that goes unknown. And she's kind of dressed down in kind of mourning garb with her son. And kind of these bandits stop her. The leader of the bandits tries to basically make passes at her. She denies them. He gets angry. And through a series of, violence and stuff, he ends up strangling her, which is pretty nasty. The kid gets away. And he tells his family, his sister, his aunt about it, our victim's sister. and she's a absolute badass, and she wants to figure out who did this. It gets much more complicated when you figure out the perpetrators of the crime were someone that goes a long way back with the family, and we have these two kind of family dynasties and everything like that that have mutual love and respect for each other, but it gets complicated and crazy. There's a lot of solid characters in here. Most of them are interesting or intriguing. The bad guys are good. The main villain in The Son is one of the most, not the little kid, but the main villain ends up being like the son of this big family, and he is a despicable monster. So much so, like, they definitely point out that the mother has been, like, spoiling him, so the mother becomes kind of a villain by proxy in her attitude and stuff like that. So, and it ends in a big kind of brawl and everything like that. And it does have, like, tendencies, which I know a lot of the Shaw Brothers movies do have that kind of tendency of, like, a tragedy kind of style thing, which I feel was almost like Shakespeare kind of induced and things like that. Overall, Lady with the Sword, I think, is pretty decent, pretty entertaining. The fights are good. It's a female-driven Shaw Brothers film, directed and starring actually the lady from Intimate Confessions of a Chinese Courtesan, which is one of my all-time favorite Shaw Brothers movies. So you can't really go wrong with the acting in here. There is a really bad dummy towards the end of the movie. It doesn't pull back its punches with who dies and whatnot, so that's always worth checking out. Now, the special features are audio commentary by David West. It only is in Mandarin as well. And the commentary is pretty interesting because he points out that this was kind of maybe possibly the director was Korean. So there's a lot of Korean actors in the film. And he also points out that the rape scene was not as exploitative as some of the other Shaw Brother movies for the time, because being directed by a woman, it has a kind of different, touch to it, and it's more about how horrible and violent and everything like that is not titillating, which some of the exploitation films would do at the time. Overall, I thought this was a really solid, entertaining Shaw Brothers movies, and it's going to be really hard-pressed for me to give a negative review on a Shaw Brothers movies if you guys have not figured them out. Not all of them blow my socks off, but most of them are at least good, and I enjoy more than I disenjoy or don't enjoy. But yeah, check this out, Lady with a Sword. Ending one box set, we're going to start another, and that is Hard Boiled 3 Pulp Thrillers by Alain Corneau. French director here. He made all three of these, I believe, in first one 76 to 81. Yeah, and I'm not too familiar with this director, actually. This is from Radiance Film. I just was talking about them. Every week I watch a couple Radiance movies, and they're either usually Japanese or Italian, but now we got a French one, so that's pretty cool. I watched all three of the movies are on 3 different discs here, and we're going to talk about Police Python 357. So this is based off a book. The Big Clock would also be based off the same source material, and a bunch of other movies, No Way Out and things like that. Mike White from Projection Booth does the commentary, and mostly he talks about the differences between the source material and the other versions of the movie, and he does a pretty good job on that. Love Projection Booth, by the way. But as we go on, this movie is pretty wild. What we have here is, it's kind of complicated. It's kind of a doozy of a story here, or a plot. We have a police officer who is kind of he's just a kind of a badass. He's older. All he focuses on his job. He makes his own bullets. He carries a .357 Magnum. It's definitely in the style of the American vigilante police movies and things like that. So basically, one day he's kind of witnessed by this woman to carry out this to stop this crime, and they start this relationship. And come to find out, she's also dating another person, and it gets complicated when you figure out who this person she's dating is. And I don't want to spoil absolutely everything, but she ends up dead, which is pretty quick in the movie, and it's kind of the main plot force in here. And the entire movie being a police officer, kind of like you ever see The Citizen Above Suspicion, the Italian movie, where we have Volante as this investigator, but he's also the criminal, and he's just so awful, and he's just fucking up the crime scene. It's kind of brilliant in that way, but this is a little different because our character here is innocent, but he's basically been seen by all the witnesses. So he's become a suspect in kind of a weird way, where he can't be fingered because he's a police officer, but the evidence is going against him more and more. And he's trying to figure out who the other lover was, because he suspects that's who did her in. It's really intense, really, and stuff like that, and the acting's really strong by his character. And I would say the first half an hour or so is a little meandering, and I don't want to be negative, but it does feel like it's a little slow to start, but once it gets going, you're entirely invested. And the ending is amazing. It ends in a great action set piece, which was top-notch. I love the look of the movie. It has I don't know what stock of film they use, but it definitely has something to do with it. It just had a great look to it. Our guy's an interesting character too because he's not just a white or black character. He's very gray, a very uncertain kind of character where he's intriguing. And I wouldn't call the guy likable, but I would say he's watchable and he's entertaining, which is the '70s kind of character type, right? He's complicated. Everything is complicated, right? But there's a couple other actors that pop up in here I think people would recognize. One of our characters has like a disabled wife who plays a big driving force in this film, and she's from La Diabolique. She's excellent in this movie. Great, screen presence and just a good performance overall. And there's small scenes in here, like where our one character will be fishing, our main character, Ferran, and he'll be fishing, and then he'll just like go swimming in the water, and it's so quick, and you're just like, you kind of get who this character is. It's he's almost like a loner. The character who plays Menard, his kind of underling police officer, is in a slew of movies, but I think the one that people would most know from this channel is Born for Hell, the AKA Naked Massacre, the Richard Speck kind of story. He plays the Richard Speck kind of character, and he's really good in that, and he's really good in this. He's got a great look, and I did not recognize him at first because he's probably the overall best character, or the one with the most redeeming qualities. But this movie is interesting. It catches your attention. It's such a crazy situation to be put into, but it's kind of brilliant in that way. I really enjoyed what is it, Python Police 357 Police Python, sorry about that, but the gun's awesome. I know in the '70s it's all about guns, and there's good action set pieces. It's not like an action, it's more of a police film. I wouldn't call it anything else. Thriller, police kind of thing, but there's a great couple set pieces of action in here, and our lead character's willing to do a lot to not be pinned for this crime he didn't do and be able to figure out this crime. Obsessive and does some wild things, and it's set up pretty well with I don't want to spoil any more than I did, but there is some special features on here, of course. Like I said, there is an interview with is it Manuel Lazic on Yves Montaigne in the '70s? I'm not sure, but there is an interview on this disc basically where someone covers and talks about the three films and the cinematographer and the writers of the films on the second one and stuff, and talks about their history a bit, and says how all that kind of breaks it down in the information like that. Interesting stuff. And of course we have the commentary by Mike White on the first one from Projection Booth, where he kind of compares all the different iterations of this kind of source material, which is also interesting. But overall, Police Python 357, I'm going to be honest, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this within the first 30 minutes, but then as it progressed, I was like, this is really good. And by the end of it, I was 100% won over. It didn't end exactly how I thought it would, but it ended how I'm glad it ended that way. I thought it was an interesting way to end it. Yeah, great stuff. Check it out. Next one we have here is from VCI Entertainment, and this is directed, starring, written by Steve Barkett. Steve Barkett made a movie in 1982, an independent movie called Aftermath, which I really like. It's a great, cool little movie, independent. This is Empire of the Dark, and I've been wanting to see this for a long time. This is I think he only directed 2 films, Steve Barkett. He stars in both of them, and at surface level there's some sort of vanity project with Aftermath, but it's more so like he's trying to get his like message across, as he says in there, and stuff like that. And his films are incredibly filled with earnest, they're endearing. They're endearing as hell. Empire of the Dark is no different than Aftermath. I mean, except for the time period. This one's made more in the late 80s, made probably 90, 91 was when it was released. Starring his son as well. Steve Barkett and his son are both in the film, just like Zombie Aftermath or Aftermath. But what we have here is, in the beginning, we have a young police officer. Although it's Barkett, he's not that young. But, he doesn't have his mustache or anything like that. And he is dating a woman who's having some trouble. She's kind of seeing another person, and she calls him and says, I need your help. He shows up to this area, and he has this huge kind of shootout, crazy fight with Richard Harrison, classic kind of genre actors, and, stuff like Marco Polo, and he was just in that ninja movie I watched, not too for Cauldron Films. Richard Harrison's in a lot of B movies. People would know who he is. He plays this cult leader, and he ends up having this drawn out battle, and his girlfriend dies. He saves her baby, and we fast forward 20 years, and Barkett is just learning, training, sword fighting, just kind of living his life, kind of obscure. I kind of like not obscure, but kind of isolated and whatnot. I cannot think. I forgot to look it up, but there is an actor in this who pops up in a lot of Fred Olen Ray movies. He's a good actor. He's solid for what he's in. He's My Body Soul, and he's in this one as kind of his old partner. And what happens is, of course, the cult's going to come back. They're a weird sect of Satanists that can be resurrected to bring back the devil demon. And they're constantly trying to bring back this devil monster Satan thing, and sometimes he's stop motion, sometimes a puppet, but he does end up coming back. It's pretty cool, and they need to sacrifice a bunch of women. We have roles from Joe Pilato popping up in here from Day of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead, one of my all-time favorite movies is Day of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead, both of them, and I love Joe Pilato. He's solid in this. They got him in old man makeup, but what happens is the gang's got to get together. This father and son are going to reunite, and they're going to kick some satanic ass. It's funny because every movie ever made is always before a certain time. It's like Satanists are evil and they worship the devil and they just kill people and sacrifice. Like I guess real Satanism is just like you worship yourself. You're out for yourself. You do not do harm to others. You just only look out for yourself and stuff like that. Whatever it is, but I don't know the exact, the religious book of Satanism, but in movies it's always been taken as that kind of metal, death horns, evil stuff. But I wouldn't have it any other way in cinema, as far as I'm concerned. It's always fun. But Steve Barkett does have that kind of, it's not as like, I don't want us to call Aftermath preachy, because I think preachy is a negative connotation on it, but I don't think his movies come across preachy. I think it's incredibly endearing, way ambitious, and it's fun. And I enjoyed myself. It never has any downtime. There's tons of action. They do squibs. They do sword fighting. They do miniatures. They do people falling off bridges and falling in lava and shit. It's like, yeah, sometimes it looks hokey. Sometimes it looks dated. But that's the kind of hokey and dated I like. It's kind of the hokey and dated I grew up with. So I'm a big fan of it. It's very entertaining. And it's got so much, it's got charm coming out of its ears, if that makes any sense. And unfortunately, Steve Barkett died in 2023, R.I.P. Seemed like a genuinely nice guy. Worked on a bunch of movies and made a lot of stuff, and he loved movies. That makes a huge difference between so many filmmakers out there. There's so many, I don't want to talk shit, but there's so many people that make movies and act in movies, and they don't like movies. And it shows. This does not show with Steve Barkett. You can tell he's a big fan, him and his son. As far as the special features are concerned, we have, where are they at? Steve Barkett and Chris Barkett audio commentary track. This one's decent, but the Chattanooga Film Festival virtual interview by Dustin Kramer with Steve Barkett and Chris Barkett. I actually enjoyed this better. It's shorter, and it's more direct, and they cover a lot of the same stuff, and it's newer, from my understanding. Black Tea short film by Laura Barkett McQuaid. Nightcrawler, a short film by Steve Barkett. Splat from the past retro podcast interview with Barkett, the Aftermath trailer, Empire of the Dark trailer, Steve Barkett interview with Buster Crabbe, Flash Gordon, fan-made poster on reverse side by Blu-ray cover by Benjamin Mara. So entertaining, man. Looks pretty good, sounds pretty good. I did notice some kind of strange choppy editing in some of the action sequences. I can only imagine that that's budget constraints or something went wrong or something along those lines. But yeah, if and I don't want to compare this to something like American Samurai, what was the one, or Samurai Cop or something like that, or where people are like, yeah, it's, or even The Instructor, which are fine, and I liked Instructor. I think it's a pretty good movie, honestly. But this one I feel is, it's kind of like Despiser. If you guys seen that from Visual Vengeance, it's kind of like Despiser, but no CGI. It's got the old school effects, and I would say that movie has tons of ambition and kind of just brings the movie together, puts it up at least a whole nother star. This one too, I enjoy it. Check out Empire of the Dark. If you like Aftermath, you'll love this one. It's a little bit more lighthearted, not as dark as the other one, but I enjoyed it, and it was it just felt good to watch stuff like this. That's like, those are the kind of indie movies I liked watching back in the day, for sure. Like our Tempe or something. It's something like some of their bigger ones, like Ozone. You're like, man, this has a lot of ambition, and it shows, and it always seems endearing. Okay, guys, I just wanted to do one for myself, and I decided to watch one I'd never seen that's been on my radar for years. I've always wanted to watch it. Had a DVD. Now I have a Blu-ray from Umbrella Import. Twisted Nerve, 1968. Yeah, by a pair of brothers, the Brunton brothers or something like that. This was their first, non kind of comedy. They got their start in making comedy films and stuff, back and forth producing and directing and things of that nature. This has Haley Mills in it. This has Thorley Walters is a guy I recognize. It has Barry Foster, and it has a bunch of other people too. A lot of classic guys that pop up in Hammer films you'll recognize right away. But Twisted Nerve was a movie that, I had always wanted to see. The song obviously lifted for Kill Bill, but it's a kind of psychological, kind of horror, psychosexual, weird stuff. It reminds me of something along the lines of course, Psycho, Peeping Tom, Girly, any of those kind of films like that, those British kind of wacky, psychological, horror films or nothing. This is actually by the same writer of Peeping Tom, and it felt a lot like Peeping Tom. Watching this, I was like, oh, it's in a boarding kind of house thing where people live, and I was like, this seems a lot like Peeping Tom with the kind of strange character character, and it is, and that's a good thing though. So Martin is from a very rich family. His real father has died. His mother has since remarried to kind of he's actually a nice guy. This guy, I can't think of the actor's name, but he pops up. Barry, what the fuck is his name? But he pops up in Life Force, and they pointed that in the commentary. I was like, oh, that is that guy. He's great in that movie, and he's like, and he's one of these actors. And I was like, oh, this guy's in a bunch of stuff that I've seen, but sometimes you don't register it. So it has this weird stuff in here. It has like this fake bullshit pseudoscience stuff where they're like, this is true on this. And they had to put a fake a warning in the beginning where they're like, this is, the term they use for mental retardation or Down syndrome is Mongoloidism, which is an outdated term. Probably, they would call like Jason Voorhees that and stuff like that. So it's like, it's much more dated term than that. And they say that obviously Down syndrome it doesn't correlate with being kind of a psychopath, which is kind of what they suggest a little bit in this movie, that there's a possibility of it. If you had birth to a child with Down syndrome, you could give birth to a child who was being a psychopath or sociopath or whatever, and you're just like, oh, whoa, what the fuck? But, our character here, Martin, who is a great character, he goes by Georgie sometimes, if that makes sense. But he has a brother with Down syndrome, and in the beginning he's visiting him. They set everything up, and he goes home, and he's talking to his mother. She never visits him, and you learn that he's been babied, and their family has a weird dynamic and all that kind of stuff. But one day he decides to steal something from a toy store, and he's next to Haley Mills, and they both get pulled into the office, even though they don't know each other. And he plays incredibly simple, which is kind of a split kind of personality kind of thing he has going on, where he wants to be a child, and he plays childish, and they let him go. He ends up tracking her down, and her mother, who is a great actress. She's in Hot Fuzz, believe it or not, and a bunch of other movies. She's fantastic in this movie. Probably one of my favorite characters in this film. Her mother kind of runs this boarding house where she has people like Barry Foster from Frenzy and stuff in here, and another Indian guy. So he kind of comes in there, and he forges this note about his father being rich in a way, and all this kind of stuff like that. And he goes by Georgie. And he gets really close to Haley Mills, and he starts to kind of do things to manipulate circumstances and play his cards right to where he can get rid of people. Eventually it escalates to murder, and I'm not going to say who he murders and all that kind of stuff like that, but the performances are really good. It's really dark. The psychological stuff is kind of twisted, especially when we kind of get into like the mother's sexuality with the kid and stuff like that. So it reminds me, like I said, of something like Girly by Freddie Francis from 1970, which is just a couple years later, or like I said, Peeping Tom, Psycho, that kind of stuff. And it's definitely in line with those movies, but those movies are all fantastic. So Twisted Nerve is also fantastic, and they got this little poem in there too that I love, and basically the twist of that kind of nerve, the DNA twist or something that's wrong. It could be like to predetermine who's a sinner and who's a saint, and you're just like, oh, that's really dark. It's really depressing to think that, right? That it's all just genetic, and there's absolutely nothing you can do to get away from your circumstances, and no matter what, right? A lot of people say it's nature and nurture, but when you watch stuff like The Bad Seed or Twisted Nerve, although Twisted Nerve could have some nature to it as well, but you watch The Bad Seed, it's just all nature. I mean, nurture. It's all nature, not nurture, But it's a dark thought to have. But I thought this was great. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I love the character actors in there. The comedy's pretty good. Thorley Walters plays like a doctor. He has a nice little scene with this kind of old woman on a bedpan, which is really silly. And often, like Hammer British horror films, it does have that weird kind of element of comedy in there, which often British films do. And Universal did as well, but this does feel kind of like the Hammer thrillers, like Fear in the Night or Paranormiac, whatever the fuck that one is, and Nightmare and stuff along those lines. Although I find it better than all the Hammer thrillers in that kind of vein. So I think it's above them, I thought, but it's great. It's got a couple of things, special features on here. Audio commentary by English Gothic Arthur Jonathan Rigby, and Encyclopedia of Fantastic Film and Television Kevin Loynes. That's a good commentary. They break down all the actors and actresses and talk about their career, talk about the how this movie came out, how it was looked at, all this kind of stuff like that. Interesting. Cleaver, Chop, an interview feature with author and film historian Alan Jones. Also very interesting, about 15 minutes. He packs in a lot of information and talks about it. So I mean, Alan Jones is pretty knowledgeable guy, right? And these guys are all British too, so they were there a little bit more. It's cultural kind of stuff in there too. So, but yeah, Twisted Nerve. It looks great. It sounds great. Loved it. Just another one I had to watch, and I've been meaning to watch it for 15, 20 years. But yeah, great stuff. All right, let's get to those 1982 movies. The first up here is one that I've covered a bunch of times on my channel. I've watched this a bunch of times for this. Was supposed to have like a show recorded, but we redid it, and that person's going to be back for another show just to make it easier and everything. This was originally listed for 81, but I didn't know if that was right, so I watched it for 81, probably covered it for 81, but then it was changed to 82, and this movie actually wasn't widely released till 1983. This is One Dark Night by Tommy McLoughlin, who also did stuff like Sometimes They Come Back, and of course Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. But yeah, this was his directorial debut. This was also Michael Schrader, the producer's debut as well. This as Meg Tilly in a very early role, E.G. Daly in a very early role, Adam West is also in here, and the face of Christopher Walken, if that makes any sense to anybody that's seen it, I'll explain later. But what we have here is kind of a horror movie that when I was growing up, it was really hard to find. My video store didn't have it. It always was kind of looked at as like, that's kind of a treasure movie, man. It's never had a DVD at the time. It's a VHS, it's not a print. So it was really hard to find One Dark Night, aka Mausoleum, shot on the original title, Rest in Pieces. And when I eventually did see it on DVD, I enjoyed it. I liked it just fine. I think I actually did find a VHS and did watch it on VHS. So I had a recorded VHS of it. But, it kind of always thought it was a solid, decent horror movie. It's PG, so at that time it's a little rare, to be honest. And it also suffered because it was finished and had a small release in 82, like July, according to the Internet Movie Database and like Wikipedia. I can't really confirm that. But it says it was released, a small release in 82. But then it got released in 83, so that kind of screwed it, right? Same thing with Entity. It had a small release in 82, but in Britain maybe, possibly, or something like that, but didn't get released wide till 83. By then, Poltergeist had come out, so we have those corpses, right? The corpses in Poltergeist kind of screwed it. Same thing, Entity got screwed over with that kind of parapsychology shit and psychics and all that kind of stuff. So this movie's kind of got looked at as like, oh, that's ripping off Poltergeist, but that's not really the case. And so One Dark Night is low budget. It was actually produced by a Mormon company, which blows my mind, right? Tom McLoughlin talks a lot about this in the special and the commentaries and things like that. So they needed a tax write-off. So they were like, hey, we produced this movie. They didn't want language and they didn't want kind of like hardcore sex or anything like that in the movie. So essentially it's kind of your college initiation movie in a kind of roundabout way. Meg Tilly wants to join this college kind of group or whatever to prove to these girls that she wants in. E.G. Daly's one of them. The main one is I think Robin Evans, but she's kind of in the what is that, the actress who's in Phantom of the Mall, and she's just kind of like that blonde, kind of like mean woman who's got that perfect kind of, her name is, she's also in The Seduction, good actress, but they're kind of going for that vein, and she fits perfect with this, so she's obviously going to play a bunch of pranks on here because Meg Tilly stole her boyfriend. It's kind of what we're at here. At the same time, we have this kind of weird psychic character named Raymar, who in the very beginning, the original opening of this film was supposed to be these coroners pulling up, and it's in there, but it has another scene which like weird premonitions and things like that. All these coroners are pulling up, and they go into this room, and it's a really great scene where there's like 6 dead women in here, and they look like they were drained of energy, and we have the body of Raymar, and he's entombed in this area. Adam West is the son-in-law of Raymar, and we have another character who's kind of like a premonition, kind of psychic character that has a bond with Raymar still, and can kind of see what's happening with her premonitions and things like that. So Meg Tilly ends up going to this mausoleum, if you will, and she gets locked in, and they start to play pranks on her and everything, be secretly hidden. And what happens is Raymar is still psychic energy in his dead body, and he kind of becomes this necromancer, and he starts using the corpses to his power, and we have a lot of gooey, nasty, kind of maggoty stuff, fun stuff at the very end. The opening of the movie is really cool, and the ending is a really good knockout. In between, it is a little slow paced, but it has good music, has solid characters, has good atmosphere. Overall, One Dark Night is a very solid horror movie, maybe a gateway horror movie for a lot of people. The sculpt face of Raymar was actually from Christopher Walken. The 2 guys that did the special effects in here, I think, are Elias Jr. Berman. There's a bunch, but Elias Jr. Berman and Tom Berman. Also, Paul Clemens worked on the effects here too, which is kind of wild because Paul Clemens became more of an actor. He's in The Beast Within. He's the main character. He's the Beast. So in that film. But so Berman also worked on Cat People this year, and Elias Jr., those 2 were the son of another special effects artist. Their dad was a special effects artist actually born in Toledo, from where I'm from, so that's cool, Elias Berman. So it's like a long generation of people that worked in special effects or sculpting or all that kind of stuff down the line. Cool stuff. Berman is one of these names that I see pop up a lot and whatnot, and he's not like, I don't want to say he's not a household name, but he doesn't get a lot of the recognition that a Savini or a Rob Bottin or Rick Baker or Stan Winston or Steve Johnson would get. But, he's there, and he's done a lot of work. But the effects are fun. And I find this really funny because I think the production designer, maybe it was, who worked on this film, had worked on Halloween. So he was friends with Carpenter, and Carpenter was friends with Dan O'Bannon. And I know this is a huge reach, but I find it very funny. And Dan O'Bannon wrote that hilarious line in Return of the Living Dead that all skeletons come from India, right? I think they got a skeleton farm over there, right? And these skeletons are definitely in this movie too. And I bet they're the same skeletons used in Poltergeist, which is funny because James Karen gets attacked by those damn skeletons. So it's like, that stopped eventually, probably after Return of the Living Dead pointing that out. But all these skeletons, they use real skeletons in One Dark Night, right? And they look so real. It's very effective. And I think a lot of these movies and a lot of these people were well aware of that, or it was like kind of a talk about, that whole idea and whatnot. But there's just like a direct correlation to like, the production designer, John Carpenter, Dan O'Bannon, all that kind of stuff like that. I know it's probably just the company, the thing like that, but it's just a weird, small world in the horror world and stuff like that. Tom McLoughlin seems like a genuinely sweet guy. I've seen him in tons of commentaries and stuff. I mean, like interviews and stuff, and heard his commentaries, and he's just an intelligent, sweet, nice guy. I also wanted to make this because he was a mime and in Paris when studying and stuff like that, and he visited the catacombs. And I don't know if I get all these facts right, but visited the catacombs and actually felt kind of like fear. So that was part of it. And he also wanted to he was in a lot of psychic stuff going on at the time. So it's an interesting, cool, fun movie. One Dark Night. I'd recommend it. It has two versions on here. We have the old Code Red Blu-ray, probably long out of print, and then we have the MVD Rewind. There was rumored at one point to be a 4K, but I don't think the elements are quite there. The movie doesn't look perfect, but Meg Tilly's also really good in here. Often overshadowed by her sister Jennifer Tilly, obviously, because she did more work later on with the Child's Play movies and things like that. But Jennifer Tilly's great and Bound. But Meg Tilly's solid in this one, and she seems like a genuinely nice person. Tons of features on these discs here. Let's do the MVD Rewind because it's still available. Two commentaries. We have director and co-writer McLoughlin with producer Michael Schrader, and then we also have with writer Michael Haas and director, interview with D.G. Daly, pretty long interview with actress Nancy Mont, interview with cinematographer Hal Trussell, interview with production designer Craig Stearns, interview with producer Michael Schrader, interview with special effects crew member Paul Clements, alternate director's cut work print version in SD aspect ratio 1:3:1, behind the scenes footage, Paul Clements photo gallery, original trailer, reversible artwork, and I'm pretty sure all the same special features are listed on here, to be honest. But yeah, a fun little movie. Check it out. And Adam West did a couple other horror movies. He did Zombie Nightmare, everybody's ultimate favorite movie. Case is closed, as I always say when I think of Zombie Nightmare. But yeah, One Dark Night, fun movie, finally recorded in 1982 where it properly is supposed to be. If it bumps up to 83, I'm not reviewing it again. Not that I hate it, but I'm not covering it a third time. We're just going to mention it in the end video and whatnot. But One Dark Night, fun stuff. Okay, next up, we got another kind of heavy hitter from 1982, and this is Paul Schrader's Cat People. Kind of a semi-remake of the 1942 Jock Turner produced, then directed, produced by Val Lewton movie, which is a cool movie, great movie, Cat People. Yeah, and Paul Schrader's fourth directed film. I think he had hardcore, blue collar, American Gigolo, and then he kind of got a little bit of free reign here. Now he worked with a couple of people that he worked with on American Gigolo. He worked with the production designer, and I worked with the composer, who I think they're the same, different person. Yeah, but it's a composer on here, of course. The music's fantastic. It's one of the bigger things. They have the David Bowie song, "Putting Out a Fire with Gasoline." Music is wonderful. It's shot in Louisiana, New Orleans. Perfect location. It stars Natasha Kinski, daughter of Klaus Kinski, and she's a very interesting kind of performer. She's a very interesting character in this, and also has Malcolm McDowell, John Hurd, Ed Begley Jr., Annette O'Toole. Just an absolute Ruby D. A fantastic cast. Fantastic score. Fantastic cinematography. Pretty good story as well. So the story of Cat People is Natasha Kinski is finally tracked down by her brother Malcolm McDowell, and she's basically moves to New Orleans to meet her brother. And it's very strange, a lot of sexual tension between them, and right away, Malcolm McDowell's kind of like just disappears, but we know he is a cat person, and we see an attack with Lynn Lowry, classic, genre actress and stuff like The Crazies, Shivers, and I Drink Your Blood, three classics right there. So she's in this great performance by her, and she's attacked by cougar painted black to look like a panther. But she ends up getting hurt, and we learn that Malcolm McDowell, we learn these cat people and Natasha Kinski and Malcolm McDowell are both cat people, and they can only have incestuous relationships. John Hurd is a guy who runs a zoo. From Home Alone and Chili Scene's a Winner and tons of Chud for everybody's favorite movie, Chud. But he ends up becoming really infatuated and obsessed with her, and he doesn't really believe it until he has no other choice to believe that she is a cat person. And they have this weird kind of thing that they have sex with somebody who's not related. They turn into a panther, and they have to go kill somebody to get transformed back. So it turns out that there's a great reveal in here in Malcolm McDowell's kind of basement and what's going on. Also, there's a detective in Bill Fazan, I think it's Fazan, who's in, Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal's in here. Good role. But, this movie, rewatching it, I really enjoyed it a lot more. I liked it. I always thought it was good. But just looking at it in 4K, it's a gorgeous movie. It's a little long, but the ending is really, really kind of fucking twisted. Right? That it's a weird love story, obsessive story, where you can look at it in certain ways, right? Like the character is infatuated with someone, but they have them in like a prison sense in a weird way. It's a very unhappy ending for a character, but that's the best kind of possible ending this character could have. The special effects are really strong as well. Gory. We have one of the best transformations, and I'm not saying we're not comparing this to Howling or American Werewolf in London. I'm just comparing it to being clever. I like how the transformation's done with one shot. It's just the trickery that they use is brilliant. They do some rotoscoping, but Malcolm McDowell's turning into the Panther, and he's kind of half transformed, and it's dark, and he goes into this dark part, and we have his glowing eyes, right? And then what comes out, we follow those eyes, is a panther. And I was like, oh man, that is so cool, that's awesome. And people are like, I love the effects like that. That shit's way better than CGI to me. Get off my lawn, I hate CGI. And I don't, but I just thought that little inventiveness was really clever. Overall, Cat People is well worth your time. Is it as good as the 40s version? They're so different, it's really kind of stupid to compare them. I really do. There's only one scene that's kind of recreates it. Natasha Kinski is just a unique, that's the only way to put it. She's just kind of unlike any other. Her performance is really good too. The View, and Paul Schrader interviews mentions that when you see the animals and stuff, that was basically the Wolfen point of view, which was made in '81, which is underrated horror movie as well. But yeah, check out Cat People, guys. It's good stuff. And I think that Paul Schrader's all his first films, all 4 of his first films, I know he directed so many. I'm going to watch more, of course, and I've seen stuff he wrote, but his first 4 films are all good. Good to great, honestly. I love Blue Collar. Remember really liking Hardcore. American Gigolo is pretty good too, but I think I like Blue Collar the best, and then probably Cat People. That's just my personal preference, and my life experiences kind of reflect on that. But as far as special features, audio commentary with Paul Schrader, new 4K scan, of course, from Original Negative. Interviews with actors Malcolm McDowell, Natasha Kinski, and Ed O'Toole, John Hurd, Lynn Laurie, composer Giorgio Moroder, and Paul Schrader. Cat People, an intimate portrayal on set with Paul Schrader. Special makeup effects by Tom Berman. I love when he's on set. Because they're is it an incest movie? Is it technically incest? Possibly. It's not really talking about incest. Incest is part of the story. It's the catalyst of the story or a part of the plot. It's not really what the movie's about. And I was like, man, that's a smart man once you think about it. He's right. Special makeup effects by Tom Berman, matte paintings, filmmaker Robert Wise, and the producer of the original Cat People. That's Val Lewton, of course, which is really cool. Robert Wise, director of The Haunting and a bunch of other great movies. So, TV spot, theatrical trailer, photo gallery. Check out Cat People if you haven't, or maybe if you haven't seen it in years. I think that revisiting it, you'll be like, oh man, this is way better than I remember. Not that I ever thought it was bad, but cool stuff. Cat People recommended. Obviously, it's definitely a contender for your top 10 of 1982, and it most certainly should be in your top 25. That's just how I personally feel. I just can't see 25 movies being better than Cat People from 1982. I really can't. Okay, next one up is Stone Boy from the Philippines, 1982. I don't have much to say about this one. This is a super fucking weird movie. Right, this woman gives birth, immaculate conception. Some God gives her a child, and he's stone. He's made of stone. He's Stone Boy, and for some reason, maybe he's the son of a god. They want him dead. These witches that turn into werewolves come after him. Bat-like people come after him, and Stone Boy ends up becoming a hero. The only thing that can stop him is water. So people are spraying I call him Bat Boy. He loves frozen pizzas, Bat Boy, right? But Stone Boy with water, and he's getting hurt, and he's falling down, and you're just like, all right, I got it. It's dubbed in English, so it's probably adds a lot of unintentional comedy to the whole thing. The monsters are fun, they're wild, they're weird, and he ends up going through like the ranks of fighting all these bad guys, including like these weird kind of ninja twin things. To be honest, I know like a lot of people love a lot of these movies, and I do too. There's a certain bit of wackiness that I absolutely adore. I love wacky and weird, okay? But what I start disliking is too much ineptness. When it becomes so inept that I'm like, I can't follow this anymore, I lose interest completely. Where it's just like, well, now he's flying in here and he turns into a ham sandwich and he dives into the water and the ham sandwich is now bologna and the bologna turns into a giant milk carton and the milk carton is like, don't eat dairy. I'm like, I don't give a fuck anymore. This is too fucking stupid now. You gotta have some sort of rules, or I have to be somewhere. And I know that Stone Boy probably does have a set of rules. I'm sure the English dubbing probably doesn't help the movie. And it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's entertaining. It has cool effects. It's ambitious. But it's just a little nonsensical. It's too nonsensical for me. You know, and sometimes the Hong Kong movies will go into that. A lot of the, a lot of times even Indian movies will become that. But the Philippine movies will do that. Taiwan movies will do that. American movies do that horribly sometimes, where it's so inept and so ridiculous that I'm completely lost interest. Even Japanese. Almost every country can have their ineptness become so ridiculous that a lot of people will love the wackiness and embrace it, while I will steer clear of it. It's a fine line for me. I'm a goofy son of a bitch, but I can't get that goofy sometimes. Or we have too much goofy. Two positives make a negative, or something. Two negatives make a positive. Whatever the fuck you want to do. Math is what this show's about. But Stone Boy, it's up to you. It's on YouTube, I think. Check it out. Okay, this next one here from 1982 is The Haunted House by Bruno Corbucci, younger brother of Sergio Corbucci, who made all the great spaghetti westerns. And Bruno Corbucci was mostly famous for directing all those, a bunch of them at least, the Nico Grimaldi movies with Thomas Milan, that kind of famous, kind of goofy kind of character that he has with the big hair and everything like that. So Bruno Corbucci didn't really do too many horror movies. He did a couple Bud Spencer movies as well. So The Haunted House, I know last year there was a kind of a Italian ghost story movie that was a comedy that I didn't have subtitles for. I think it was like something Spirit, so I didn't watch it. But this one I actually ended up having subtitles with, and it's ridiculously silly. We have a kind of an old period piece opening here where we have these two characters that are madly in love, and the mother-in-law of them curses them and says, you'll never be able to have sex or whatever unless these stars align. I'm turning you into a pillar of salt, and this set of circumstances has to happen 100 years later or you're done. And one of the guy's helpers decides to help them. So 100 years later, we fast forward, and we have our goofy kind of comedian character, who I'm sure is an Italian comedy actor who's in a bunch of movies here, and his soon-to-be wife, and they have to find a place to live because they're going to get married, but she doesn't want to marry him until they find a place to live and everything like that. And nothing really is sticking out to him. He can't find a good place. He works with a bunch of jerks that are always playing pranks on him. They don't respect him. They don't like him. And he's just kind of a dopey kind of moron. But what happens is a bunch of this ghost kind of steers him in the right direction by possessing his giant Great Dane dog, I think it's a Great Dane, and leading him to ridiculous kind of shenanigans. Comedy ensues. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. The best gag in the movie is the bank keeps getting robbed, and like they're so used to it, they're just sitting there talking to each other like, yeah, like, hey, can I go, man? I'm going to be like, yeah, get out of here. Like the robbers know him and everything like that. That's the best gag in the whole movie. But eventually they get into this house, and the mother-in-law is there too, and not the one from the past, the new mother-in-law, and shenanigans ensue. They're trying to have sex, but something's going to break it up because it has to happen at the full moon on this time period. So all the circumstances are going to come together and whatnot. It's silly. It's fun. I caught myself laughing a couple times, but it does get a little, meandering and boring at certain points in the movie. There's a point where he turns into the Hulk, and I'm like, that's a bit too much for this. It's not that funny. But, overall, Haunted House, entertaining, goofy Italian comedy. I enjoyed it. I'm sure some of the translation isn't perfect, but if it sounds like it's up your alley, you were like, I want to check out an Italian comedy, which doesn't often translate. This one I think translates a little bit more because we have a long history of kind of haunted kind of ghost stories that are very similar, like Abbott Costello meet whoever the hell they're meeting this week, or, stuff like that along those lines. And I know there's old Bob Hope ones like Ghost Snatcher, Ghost Chaser, stuff like that. So it does translate a little bit better than some of the other comedies. But check it out, The Haunted House. Okay, the next one, the Patreon pick here is Harvey. And I don't have that much to say about this. I am 100% sorry. So it stars, of course, Jimmy Stewart, one of the all-time great actors, one of the all-time brilliant actors. And it's not like I don't have anything to say because I didn't enjoy the movie. I did enjoy it. Jimmy Stewart's pretty great in this. So essentially, Jimmy Stewart is a bizarre man who is as imaginary friend, so possibly imaginary friend, some people can possibly see it sometimes, of a 6'3.5" rabbit that he talks to all the time, and his sister and her daughter are incredibly embarrassed by him. So they're always trying to get him out of the house so they can kind of introduce her to the classier individuals of society, and she can maybe finally get married. So that's kind of the element, what they're looking for here. But Harvey, Jimmy Stewart and Harvey keep screwing it up. They'll come back and they'll start introducing him to the rabbit. Jimmy Stewart's great in this. He's got the great demeanor of the simple kindness. And he has one of the most brilliant lines spoken about why you should be nice to people. He says something along the lines of, I realize that you need to be really incredibly intelligent or all the time or incredibly nice. And I chose to be nice or something, or I stopped being intelligent. Something along those lines. He delivers it brilliantly and you're like, that is so good to hear. That is something that you like. I think we could all hear that. And I know sometimes I get like that too. And people are like, just be positive. Everything will end up working out. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. But no, every once in a while I need to hear something like that. And Jimmy Stewart, the voice of Jimmy Stewart telling me that's like, I can't think of a better voice than Jimmy Stewart and a 6'3.5" rabbit telling you that. But of course, shenanigans are going to ensue because the sister and the niece want to get him put into a mental facility. So there's a lot of doctors running around. He's escaping. Where'd Harvey go? So it ends up being really funny, really silly. We're introduced to other characters that start to intermingle and maybe some love is blossoming. And the ending is actually heartwarming and touching, as you would expect a 50s, I think it's 1950 movie to be. But I would recommend it. If you're a big Jimmy Stewart fan, you should check it out. I've never seen Jimmy Stewart's never let me down, ever. He's just, yes, some of his acting could be considered old-fashioned, but that's what you're in for. And he adapted well when you watch stuff like The Shootist or the one where he's got the fake eye with Kurt Russell and Schrader Martin. So he somehow adapts, and he's great. He's a great performer. But, yeah, I enjoy this one. Harvey, check it out. If it sounds like, if you want something a little bit more lighthearted, a comedy of errors, it is a little long. It is a little long, and I've been like a broken record here. It's like, everything's a little long. All right, let's get these questions, comments, and concerns. There's a lot of them. Beyond Sour Ground. Hey, Mr. Park, I don't think I posted earlier enough last week for you to see the comment. Anyway, I tried to modify what I wrote so it's more on topic with this week's video. How's the AV on Forbidden World, and would you recommend the upgrade? I thought it sounded pretty good, looked pretty good, but I don't remember if I had the 4K scan of it, because I know they put a 4K media, like a steelbook, and I just had the old Blu-ray, and it looked better than that. I've been trying to avoid Shout products lately because in each of the past few orders I've done with them, I got damaged copies with either scratch or defective disc, and their customer service has become very difficult to deal with ever since they rebranded from factory to studios. That sucks. But I'd like to upgrade to Forbidden World, Galaxy of Terror, Humanoids from the Deep, and Sorority House Massacre. I'm kind of holding off to see if other labels like Arrow will do better 4Ks for titles like Night of the Creeps and Killer Called from Outer Space, but Shout owns the Roger Corman stuff outright. Yeah, I didn't buy the Night of the Creeps because it doesn't even have the theatrical cut in 4K. And you could do seamless branching. You guys are being lazy. You're greedy and lazy. But I didn't comment a few weeks back, but I did see your follow-up comments to our conversation on disturbing horror YouTube history. Maybe I'll give Sweet Movie a chance someday. As far as your channel goes, though, I want to compliment you on your consistency with making videos. I wish I never deleted my older channels as I didn't save the files, so all my old video reviews are essentially lost media now. LOL. I didn't save a lot of them. I just saved the weekly ones. But you were definitely one of the originators of this whole horror YouTube thing, and we're uploading consistently even when I was just getting started making videos back in the mid to late 2000s. So it's great to see you still around and essentially making the same kind of content. Thank you. Although I wish my content was better. Hopefully I've gotten better, but I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I never delete anything. I just wait for the day. One day this channel's going to be gone, and I don't think I have the time or patience to rebuild it. Maybe in a certain way I will, but I don't know. It's like not saying I'm going to delete it. I'm just saying that it might get deleted. It could happen anywhere. You never know with a changeover and it's gone. It's coincidentally topical that you reviewed Sallow for this episode too. It's been roughly 15 years since I last watched Sallow, but it's still in the top tier of my list for disturbing movies. It's certainly the best, and probably the roughest of Nazi exploitation movies. I also find movies like Cannibal Holocaust and Spider and the Grave more comfortable and enjoyable watches. Sallow just feels quite dirty and borderline indefensible at times, and the historical fictional elements keeps the film more based in reality. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend a Spanish film called The People in the Dark, which is like a cross between Sallow, Night of the Living Dead, and Last Man on Earth, but not nearly as iconic as any of those films. I probably wouldn't call Sallow. Yeah, I've seen People in the Dark. I probably covered it on here. Great movie. It has a lot of Night of the Living Dead in there. Paul Naschy, a small role. Good stuff. Spanish classic horror film. That needs a nice release. I have a Blu-ray from Code Red, but it could use a nicer one. I think I have my computer. I think I do, or my Plex. I have a version chopped that has all the scenes in it or something like that, a hybrid or something. I probably wouldn't call Salad the most disturbing movie I've ever seen, but since we're talking about it recently, what would you say is the most disturbing movie you've ever seen and why? I don't really know. It's hard to say. Disturbing and like disgusting and stuff are different. Like, I'll tell you what, I'm never watching those vomit doll movies again. I just can't do it. They're just fucking disgusting. And I don't know if it's because the disturbing nature is disturbing. It's just gross. So, disturbing. Ones that bother me mentally that get on my nerves. You know what? Star 80 fucked me up. Star 80 at the time in my life, and I'm not saying it's the most disturbing movie ever, because like stuff like Cannibal Holocaust, I can watch very easily. It's just because I'm desensitized to it. But Star 80 got me. It got me in the, oh man, it makes me feel sick to my stomach. Just make me question, people's mentality or humanity in general. But I know it's not the most disturbing, but that's just one I'll throw out there. Did you go to Cinema Wasteland last weekend? If so, how was the show? Yes, I did. It was very fun. I just went Saturday, but I hung out with friends and had a good time. I had to go to the wedding last weekend, so unfortunately I didn't get to go, but I can't wait for upcoming October show. I hope you grabbed some footage of the convention last weekend. I did not. I did see you showed your Wasteland Hall at the end of the video. Yeah, I did. I didn't grab any. I was just one day, so I don't know if you've ever done book reviews, but would you consider reviewing that Hell of the Living Dead book when you're done reading it? I don't know when I'll get to it. 600 pages! It's so much. I've been curious about checking out some of those Severed books, especially the Nightmare one, as I love slashers and it's written by Michael Kingold. I did grab the Reanimator novelization Vinegar Syndrome was selling, but I haven't read it yet. Mike Save. Please stop saying super. I didn't even know I was saying super, but I should add super, like slashers that super fine. Not sorry, but super. I don't know. Nick Moore from Belgium. Short Night of the Glass Dolls seems like another winner as far as gialli go. I'll definitely check it out. However, I'll probably give Death of a Unicorn a pass for horror comedy. It doesn't seem to be very funny or scary. That's why I love this channel so much. Great movie tips, and you also seem to watch Netflix, so we don't have to. You're charging extra for the service, right? No, I don't charge nothing. Questions. Just how much do you enjoy Dark Knight Scarecrow? It made my top 10 at 81. 81's a very strong year. It's a fucking fantastic movie. I saw 88 Films just released it. Looks interesting. Pick it up. You won't regret it. It's great. Did cornfields or scarecrows freak you out as a kid? I have a long, weird story about something involving corn, scarecrows, stuff. A thing called the Corn Man. They used to go to this campground, me and my cousin, and there was this thing that one of my uncle's friends brought up, made this whole story when he was drunk called the Corn Man. And he said the Corn Man kills people that disrespect nature. And he went through this whole fucking thing. And me and my cousin were like, I was terrified of the Corn Man when I was like 6 or 7. Just like crying in the campground. But eventually we took the Corn Man and we made him our own. We made all these crazy, wacky, weird ass stories where the Corn Man basically just had a group of villains and we made him stupid as possible. He's just a big fat piece of buttery corn killing people and killing all our friends. And it was just a great way for us to make fun of everybody that we knew, including celebrities and our friends. And it was really shitty, but also hilarious to us. You know what I mean? Like, just stuff like, I don't want to get into it because it's like, it's the mentality of a 10-year-old. Like, what's funny to them? It's like, oh, that guy's fat. I'm 10. But it's that kind of shit. But, what is your favorite mythological creature movie? I really like Hammer's The Gorgon. Love The Gorgon. I don't know if I have a favorite mythological creature movie, though. Like, just where it focuses on one that's kind of pre-established, I'm sure there's a bunch of them. But one off the top of my head where there's like a Bigfoot or like a Loch Ness Monster or something along that nature, or a Yeti, I don't really have one. I think the Gorgon is a good one. I probably would go with that one, honestly. Keep up the good work, but don't tire yourself out. Take care, and next time, God willing. Thank you. Mixed Race Jace. I now understand why there's a cult following of 80s horror and slasher movies. The practical effects are not only amazing, but more frightening than the modern CGI stuff, in my opinion. Great video, by the way. Yes, I agree. I mean, there's something tangible and real touching it. I feel like that. But at the end of the day, I was raised on it. And so I don't know how people feel about CGI that were raised on that. So it is what it is. Audio Love 1976. Thanks for the shout out. Sure. Way Up Dude gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. Zombie Adams. I seen Solid at the cinema here in the UK when it was first on band. I think it was around 20 years ago. I took my girlfriend at the time and walked out after the first few rape scenes as I was a bag of nerves. I remember asking why I didn't want to watch it. I had seen all sorts of bad shit, but was totally unprepared for it. I went back myself the next night and watched the full thing. Couples and people walked out left, right, and center, and I remember an old woman standing up saying, "Why are you watching this?" to the whole cinema. It really takes the biscuit in terms of cruelty and is very hard to watch. It's sort of the film that literally makes you feel guilty and dirty. Cheers, Dave. Just old lady, why are you watching this? I love that. Say 31880. I haven't seen Death of a Unicorn yet, but I will watch. But I will when I see it. I did see Drop, and it was average. I say stream it, don't rush it. Great reviews. Drop didn't look very good to me, man. Like I kept seeing it, like the trailer, like 30 times, and I was like, I just don't want to watch this. But if I hear a lot of good things, I'll check it out. It says I'm seeing Sinners Friday. Me too. I'm seeing it Saturday, actually. Martin VP gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. Southport Rocker, continuing the John Woo talk. The Killer is the first I saw of his. Still have the VHS. Think I'll pick up those Cellular Dreams releases. Bit expensive buying within Australia, though. Think it'll be worth it. The packaging looks great. Yeah, let me know. Cheers. First John Woo I saw was Hard Target, for sure. I was very young when I saw it. Probably like whenever it came out, probably saw Hard Target right when it was released. And we loved Van Damme growing up, so immediate rental. What the flick? I love Hell of the Living Dead. The first Halloween with my then girlfriend, now wife, on our own. I was passing out candy while watching Hell of the Living Dead. Now I'd watch it every Halloween since 2007. Great choice. Ken Coakley. I watched Short Night of the Glass Dolls again for the first time in a while last night. John Surreal looked like Franco Nero. They had the same eyes. I thought Ingrid Tolan was hilarious, especially when she tells Surreal, your friend is really groovy. That scene was far out. LL. Mario Adolf was hilarious as Jocks. He looked like Jack Black as Wolfman Jack in a biopic about Weird Al Yankovic. The fake French accent was hilarious as well. Barbara Bach wasn't in the film very long, but she was been in a lot of films since then. She was the Bond girl in The Spy Who Loved Me, 77, Caveman in 81 with Dennis Quaid and her husband Ringo Starr, as well as working twice with Franco Nero in Street Law, as well as Force 10 from Navarone. The film plays like Johnny Got His Gun, with the voiceover and the main character taking the viewers on the journey of how he totally and completely ruined. How he got totally and completely ruined. As for Android, I thought it was alright. Not my favorite Klaus Kinski film by a mile. No way, I agree. And not my favorite Don Upper film either. Upper was great in the film all throughout the 80s. Upper was often overlooked. A few years ago, a friend and I saw Critters at our local theater as a midnight showing. There's drunken kids trying to be Robert De Niro's version of Max Cady, but one of them sounded like Sloth from the Goonies. I pointed out to my friend, then blurted out, hey Sloth, give it a rest, will ya? My friend laughed so hard that he was hyperventilating. He was so vulnerable to my humor that he cracked up when they showed the music and I turned to him and said, it's true, you can't escape the night. He cracked up again. I also got around to watching Ty West's X trilogy. Each film had some impressive names in the cast. For instance, Jenna Ortega and Martin Henderson were in X. Henderson was in the American remake of The Ring and nearly played Superman but lost the role to Henry Cavill. The only character that I sympathized with was the cameraman. His girl and the director did him dirty. Then his girlfriend has the unmitigated gall to say that she didn't know it was going to upset him. Even though I'm a Christian, I don't think about where the victims in slasher movies go when they die. This time I did. Church Mouse took off her crucifix for the scene. She turned her back on Christ to do a porno and never regretted it, and certainly didn't repent. So, in my opinion, and possibly Wes' opinion, she was condemned. I wish the cameraman had survived. As for Pearl, I had to fast forward through the animal killings. I love the color scheme of the film. It's similar to Technicolor. The projectionist was played by David Corset, the new Superman. Like Pearl, I was always going to the movies, and I saw hair at the movies and wanted to be just like Treat Williams. I thought I was going to marry Brooke Shields, but that was a pipe dream of a 15-year-old kid. A lot of people had those dreams, but we didn't hurt anybody. Pearl's family life destroyed her. Yeah, it's like Fade to Black, which I know is one of your favorites. Now for Maxine, I thought it was the weakest, but Wes must have had some crazy money to cast Kevin Bacon and Bobby Cannavale. Lastly, I binge-watched a hospital drama on Max called The Pit. The entire season takes place in one day at a hospital in Pittsburgh. In an episode, an ambulance gets stolen and it's on the news. They mention the ambulance is near Monroeville. The Pit is produced and stars Noah Wiley from ER, which featured Randy Kovics in a few episodes. That's good. Petra Lampella. I remember being drunk when I first saw Forbidden World and absolutely fell in love with it, so I probably would never even dare to watch it totally sober. It's one of those movies for me. By the way, I probably already mentioned this, but as I know you love Day of the Dead, I have to ask, did you notice a similarity between Forbidden World's Dr. Cal Timbergen and Day of the Dead's Dr. Logan? I've always thought the resemblance is uncanny. The bloody white coat, the glasses on the tip of the nose, and the messy hair, and they even behave in quite similar fashion. I did not, but the kind of mad doctor, is a very kind of character type. But I've seen Day of the Dead so many times before I ever saw Forbidden World. The Logan is the originator of that kind of guy for me. But let's just do the update real quick here. Just one title, but it's a doozy. It is The Beyond, Lucio Fulci's Grindhouse releasing here. We got a little eyeball too. Yeah, that's right, with the Ebon thing on the back there. It's one of my all-time favorite. Damn eyeball. But it's a heavy thing, guys. This is like one of those sets where you kill somebody with tons of features. Look at it. It's got every feature. Look at it. Don't look away. Your eyes are going to turn white, like The Girl in the Beyond. But just an amazing movie. 6 disc. 1 4K, 3 Blu-rays, 1 DVD, 1 CD. You gotta love The Beyond. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Can't wait to watch it in 4K. Maybe I'll have a marathon. I'll do City of the Living Dead and The Beyond back to back, and House by the Cemetery. Although it's not technically part of a trilogy, I don't care what the box set says that you bought from somebody. But yeah, anyways, it'd be a great 4K trilogy. Let's get out of here. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a good one.